Hello, first person to tune in. We'll start in just a minute, okay? As usual, I am running late, so we're just waiting for a couple people to show up. Always running late. I need to start this earlier. If you got any questions or comments, just put them down there. All right, well, I was late, so I guess we can start. 1 second. That. All right, welcome to the Comic Show Post Show. I still don't have a cool name for that. If you can think of one, by all means, leave it in the comments down there. Maybe I'll use it. We've got Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Gotham Week 2 to cover tonight. If you have any questions or comments, type them down there. Again, sorry, no chat room. Just leave them in the comments. I'll try to get to them all. Arrow and Flash, I believe, are starting up next week. Don't quote me on that. I think it's next week. So this should be the last time where I only have to cover 2 shows. I don't know how I'm going to do 4 at once, but I'll try. God help me when Constantine starts too. And people might want me to talk about Legend of Korra as well, because it starts tomorrow, apparently, which I was not aware of. But anyway, I have to work tomorrow, so we can't go too late. I'll try to keep this under 2 hours, because I didn't get a lot of sleep last night, and I got to try to get some tonight if I can. So we'll do S.H.I.E.L.D. first. I'll give you my thoughts on this week's episode, and then I'll answer questions or comments on it, and then we'll do the same for Gotham. Also, I had a request on Twitter to talk about the Simpsons Family Guy crossover, so we'll cover that at the end. Does that sound good? I'll just assume you all said yes. Also, usual disclaimer, if the stream goes down, please don't leave. I'll try to get it back up. Just bear with me. Just give me a minute. Also, tonight's dinner is spaghetti with pesto on it. And also I have pre-chopped honeydew and pineapple, my favorite. I have fruit smoothie here. And also I have these Special K cracker chip things, which I just discovered, but they're actually really good. It's nice that it's a healthier alternative than the usual potato chip type stuff. But anyway, on with the show. First up, S.H.I.E.L.D., Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 2, Episode 2, Heavy is the Head. Wow, yeah, S.H.I.E.L.D. continuing the massive uptick in quality in Season 2. This was another great one. Pros of this episode, things I noticed early on. There's been a pretty big uptick in quality with action sequences and visual effects. 2 things I thought could have been improved upon in the first season. There was that really cool motorcycle chase in the beginning with May following Absorbing Man in the truck. The visual effects with Absorbing Man in the climax when they took him out, those were really impressive. I don't think those could have been done in the first season. Apparently they've learned a bunch of stuff, through their experiences in the first season, because I thought that was really impressive work. That was great. Also, we get some new characters here that they're starting to flesh out now. I love these new characters. We got to learn a little bit more about Mac, who we saw, Mac the mechanic, who we saw briefly in the excuse me, in the premiere last week. Learned a little bit more about him, and there was some really fun. There was some really nice interaction with him and Fitz. I love that, of all people, he's the one to reach out to Fitz when all the others like Sky and May are just sort of observing Fitz from a distance, just walking on eggshells around the poor bastard, not really doing anything to help him. They're just watching him like he's like some kind of lab rat, which is part of the problem. You know, he hates that they're treating him like this, like he's some kind of ticking time bomb, and that's part of what's screwing him up. But he can't communicate that. He can't articulate it to anyone because that's part of the damage to his brain is that he can't do that stuff now. You know, he can't communicate properly because his speech is fucked up. And probably because he's feeling really inadequate and stuff like that. But here, look at what happens here. Mac just walks right up to him. What does he do? He treats Fitz like a person. Not like someone to be pitied or anything like that. He just talks to him like a normal dude. More than that, he listens to him. You know, he listens to him. He helps him out a little bit. He manages to interpret what Fitz is trying to communicate. And just like that, he helps Fitz help the team. You know, Fitz finally manages to help the team do something. You know, he helps him stop Absorbing Man with a little bit of help from Mac. And then, you know what? That's great. Big props to Mac for helping a brother out. Mac is a cool dude. I want more of this character. That was awesome. I want Mac to be Fitz's wingman when Simmons comes back. Because Fitz needs a guy to talk him up a little bit to the ladies. Especially with Simmons, because he can't really do that himself right now until his speech gets, improves. Also, Lance Hunter. This guy is great. This is a character. This is the kind of character this show was missing. I love this guy. He's a smartass and he's kind of a dick, but at the same time, you can't help but like him because he's charming and funny too. And they obviously don't trust him as far as they can throw him, but because he's obviously willing to screw them over if he has to do his own thing. But they're still willing to let him work with them because he has a moral code too at the same time. Because when Coulson's telling everyone to bail, not telling everyone to proceed with the mission as planned, he says, "No, fuck that. I'm getting my friend to a hospital before this thing attached to her arm kills her." That's he's going against orders, but it's for an admirable reason, and you wouldn't expect that from a mercenary only there for the money. So you get the sense that there's more to this guy than just what he appears to be. And I thought about this a lot. I kind of see this guy as like the Marvel version of Han Solo. The scoundrel with a heart of gold. I think that's a good way to describe Lance Hunter. And I like this dude a lot. In fact, I think after Fitz and Simmons, he's my new favorite character. This guy's a lot of fun to watch. Mac is up there too now, but yeah, Lance Hunter, this guy's great. I loved him icing the team to take out Creel by himself. Gee, I wonder why they think this guy is untrustworthy. That was awesome. Because he just wants revenge on Creel for killing his friend. And him shooting Trip was especially funny. Like, oh, hell no. Boom. He just takes the gun for himself. That was great. Oh, speaking of Trip, another positive. I liked Trip this week, which I did not see coming. But yeah, I found him much more likable this week. And why? Because there were scenes in which he was shown to be less than perfect. Lance Hunter gets the jump on him. He's shown to be angry with Simmons for abandoning Fitz and leaving the team. Because I think we saw a little hint of this last season. Because agents abandoning their team is something that Trip has a problem with. So they're showing aspects of his character here that are not about just how awesome he supposedly is all the time. Thank you. Take Trip more in this direction. Because this version of Trip, where he's not just displaying all these freaking Gary Stu qualities all the time. This version of Trip, I like this version a lot more. Let's take him more down this path and leave the Gary Stu stuff over there somewhere, because that was a lot better. Another big plus here. They didn't kill Absorbing Man. I got the feeling that this was like a last-minute rewrite, because the obelisk turned him to stone. His exposure to the thing turned him to stone. But then they just throw in that line at the end there. Oh yeah, he turned to stone, but he could always do that. So you might want to lock him up, because he can wake up at any time. I got a feeling they just threw that in at the end because the character turned out so well that they want to bring him back, and I'm so happy about that, because this guy was too cool of a villain not to use again. I can't wait for them to use Absorbing Man again. That's awesome. Another plus. It looks like the standalone nature of those early season 1 episodes that kind of bugged a lot of people, that seems to be done away with now. And this was essentially a two-parter, these first 2 episodes. And everything is much more serialized, and I think most fans were in agreement that being serialized helps with the storytelling on this show. Yeah. So I think I think that's something they learned in the back half of season 1. Is just when you're telling a continuous story, everything seems to work a lot better, and the stories are a lot more memorable. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of elements. I mean, even if these 2 episodes were sort of a self-contained story, there's a lot of ongoing plot threads that they're seeding through everything now. Talbot is still after them. The alien language, they're hitting that in a big way. I got a feeling there's going to be a big revelation about that coming fairly soon, probably in the first half of the season before the mid-season break. Now, they already introduced Sky's father, plus Raina's back, which is awesome, because I love Raina. She was one of the big revelations in season 1, because she was originally intended to just be a one-off character, but they liked the actress so much they expanded her role, and now she's a big part of the mythology. So when Raina shows up, you can be sure that there's probably going to be some stuff coming up about that alien language or glyphs or whatever the hell they are, because she's going to be heavily involved with that. Also, it looks like this subplot about Fitz's brain damage is going to be an ongoing thing, and I'm so happy about that. Ian DeCasticker is killing it with this storyline. This is great. I mean, he's turning in some terrific acting, and yeah, it's such a heartbreaking subplot too. It's just, and he's really doing some terrific work here. Plus, in addition to all that, they're also dropping little teases, little hints about future stories that are probably coming up sooner than we think. Stuff like, why did Simmons leave the team exactly? Where did she go? What has she been doing since she left? Which looks like it's going to be addressed in the next episode. We saw little hints about Hydra brainwashing techniques with Absorbing Man and his Hydra contact in one scene. Again, looks like it'll be coming up next episode. Also, a mention of a certain senator with deep pockets that's paying Talbot to hunt Coulson, and information has been released about that, about the identity of that person, which I guess counts as a spoiler, but it wasn't like a press release and stuff, so it's not spoilerish. But I won't spoil it unless someone wants me to. But yeah, that's a really interesting development. I can't wait to see that. As far as cons about the episode, I really don't have any big complaints. This was really solid and really good. I do have one little nitpick though. The ending, when Coulson is using the knife to cut the alien glyphs into the wall. They had I think they had like a bucket of spackle on the floor there. Apparently this is something that happens every 18 days or so. and then May takes pictures of all the glyphs, and then they just spackle over the wall and wait for him to have another episode. Can't they just get him a whiteboard and some magic markers or something? It just seems like a big waste of spackle, doesn't it? I just thought that was funny. But, yeah, overall, another great episode. Yeah, I love the hell out of it. I really appreciate how they're doling out the screen time for all the respective characters a lot more evenly now. You know, in the first season, they tended to focus mainly on Skye, Ward, and Coulson most of the time, and May and Fitzsimmons kind of took a back seat for for most of the time. Not so now. I think it feels like everyone's getting their due. Everyone's getting, a moment. Obviously, Ward is still locked up, so his screen time is limited right now. That'll change later on, I'm sure. And Simmons is away from the team, but it looks like next week is going to be a big spotlight episode for her. So everyone is really getting moments instead of just focusing on one person or another. And I prefer that. I like the ensemble nature. I like getting to know everyone instead of just spending too much time on any one character. And that's it for my review. So, if we have any questions or comments about S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 2, Episode 2, write them down now. And, all right, let's just refresh this, see if we've got anything here. All right. Duke Nukem 3D. So you like Mac more than Trip? Yes, I do. I went over this in depth last week. I don't like Trip. He doesn't feel like a real character to me yet. I feel like at first it seemed like he was mainly introduced to interest Simmons and make Fitz jealous by just being like the perfect guy and being like awesome and good and talented at everything. And that works for the short term. But if he's going to be sticking around, you have to flesh him out. You have to make him three-dimensional, and you do that by giving him some character flaws. There has to be more to this guy than just being good at everything he does. And so far, we're not really seeing that. I think the potential for a good character is there, but so far he's stuck in Gary Stu land. And until something about that changes, I'm not changing my stance on Trip. And you don't change that by having him hook up with Simmons, okay? Just for the record, I don't want to see that happen because that whole thing just felt really forced and awkward to me. As a brief flirtation, okay, but don't take it any more than that, please. Whereas Mac, okay, this feels like a more well-rounded character here. He's not a field agent. He's a tech guy. He's a mechanic type of guy. He appears to be kind of a blue collar guy, kind of laid back. You see him reaching out to a character that nobody else wants to approach, so he doesn't think like the other characters, and he seems to have a rapport with Fitz that the others don't have or aren't trying to develop or whatever. And okay, there's something here. There's something to build on. I like this. He seems to have flaws. Again, not a field agent. He stays in the compound and works on machines and stuff. But I think that there's potential with this character, and I like him. I want to see what they do with him. Whereas Trip, he doesn't feel real to me. And I'm not sure I can explain it any better than that. Duke CT, what is your opinion on Skye so far in S.H.I.E.L.D.? Overall in season 2. Guess I'll do overall. 1 second. Um, in the beginning, I had a few issues with Sky. Um, yeah, I've gone over this in the season 1 reviews that I've been doing. Yeah, the first 3 episodes are uploaded there if you want to watch those. But I felt like in the beginning they were trying a little bit too hard to fit Sky into the role of the central ass-kicking heroine character that we see in all the Whedon shows. You know, Buffy, River Tam, Echo, etc. I just felt like it wasn't really working with Sky, and they had to do a little bit of character surgery with her. I felt like I didn't really see how or why she fit into the show until we found out that she was an 084. Because now, after that, she felt like she had this character felt like it had a reason to be on the team other than just being the super awesome hacker person. And since then, they kind of fleshed her out more. They made her more of a character and less of a caricature, I guess. But I like her a lot more now. You know, early season 1 Sky wasn't crazy about her. Season 2 Sky, I like her now. She's cool. They've done some character surgery there a little bit, and she's cool now. I'm good with Sky now. Mr. Killer Ricky. Oh God, dyslexic here, dude. I don't. Mr. Killer Ricky. You know who you are. Greetings and salutations from London. Hi. Greetings from America. Let's save me one. Do you think Simmons is a double agent and her and Coulson are the only 2 in on it? So by double agent, do you mean Coulson sent Simmons on a mission to infiltrate Hydra? That's a popular theory. I don't think so. You know, when last we saw Simmons, she still was really bad at lying. So sending her on a solo undercover mission to infiltrate, you know, an enemy as that has as much on the ball as Hydra has, that sounds like a recipe for disaster. I think it's possible that Coulson sent her on some kind of mission, and maybe she saw an opportunity to infiltrate Hydra for one reason or another, maybe to lure back some SHIELD defectors that Hydra may have acquired when they took over the Science Academy. Maybe she wanted to get a look at their facilities. Maybe they have some technology that could help Fitz. We don't know. But yeah, apparently, I don't know what was going on in that promo, but it looks like she's doing something Hydra related, and that promo definitely teased that she was involved with Hydra somehow. I think if she was a Hydra defector like Ward, they would not have spoiled it. They wouldn't have showed that in the next week on promo teaser. So I'm sure that's being misleading. I think it's possible that Coulson sent her on a mission, but I think it's a better story if she chose to leave the team of her own volition. Maybe she just cracked and she couldn't take it anymore. I think it would make sense for her character because, you know, starting in season 1, early on, she was always the most, wide-eyed, enthusiastic, and naive, I guess, about SHIELD and field work and all that stuff. And by the end of the season 1, she was so disillusioned with the whole thing that she admitted that she wasn't even sure why she was still there. So I think it would make perfect sense for Simmons to finally just feel like she just physically could not be there anymore. For a number of reasons. And maybe the straw that broke the camel's back was Fitz's situation. You know, he declared his love for her before sacrificing himself and essentially getting himself maimed, saving her life. And maybe she felt, and she did not necessarily reciprocate his feelings in that moment. And maybe she felt guilty about that, felt guilty for taking the oxygen. Maybe she felt like her being around him was distracting him and just hurting him. with him, knowing that she didn't necessarily feel the same way about him, and she felt like maybe if she left, he could focus on just healing and getting better. That's what they hinted at least in the season premiere. I think there's probably more to it than that. It's probably more complicated. We'll find out next week, but my guess is she left the team if she made the decision to leave the team on her own. I think that's the most compelling story they can tell, because then when she returns to the team, then you've got a really interesting story there where she has to kind of win back the team's trust and repair her relationships with them, because we got a hint in this episode that people were not necessarily happy about her leaving. Sky and Trip seemed kind of pissed off about it. Because it's like, oh, I can't believe she abandoned Fitz like that. Well, she abandoned all of us, and so they seemed they seemed upset, and I think it's a more interesting arc for her if she has to face the consequences of bailing on the team. So that's what I hope happens. I don't know if that's the way they'll go, but I think that's the most compelling way to go. Gore492, do you think sooner or later that Ward will eventually rejoin S.H.I.E.L.D.? Probably way down the line, but do you think it will eventually happen? If it does happen, I think we're talking way, way in the future. Certainly not anytime soon, because Ward has a lot to atone for. And first, he has to get out of the cell, and that's not going to happen until they trust him or he escapes. I think right now, if they want to play it realistically, they're going to have to kind of dive into this character and find out why he is the way he is and how he became this way before they can start to even redeem him in anyone's eyes. I think they've started. They're trying to make him more sympathetic, showing that he had multiple suicide attempts, and he seems to trying to be helpful, to Sky at least. He's not being stubborn or refusing to help. He seems to be trying to be helpful. That's a good start. They got to do a lot more. He definitely needs to make amends for what he did to Fitz, for Christ's sake. Because Fitz is the guy who, definitely paid the most for that. At least the one that's still alive who paid the most. It looks like he and Fitz come face to face next week. The promo teaser definitely cut the footage together to make it look that way, at least. So, Ward's got some apologizing to do. Could he ever rejoin S.H.I.E.L.D. in an official capacity? I doubt it. I could see him eventually getting like probationary release where they kind of just use him as a gun, where they just point him at someone and tell him, yeah, go do what you do to that person. Could he ever be an official agent again? I don't think so. But stranger things have happened. If Whedon redeemed Spike on Buffy, he could probably redeem Ward somehow. I'm not sure how, but I wouldn't rule it out. Jacob Walton, do you think Simmons would be a good heel turn if they did go that route? I don't think so. I know for some reason it's a really popular theory that Simmons was a Hydra sleeper agent like Ward was. I don't know where this comes from. They already had one Hydra agent on the team. They kind of had two double agents where May was kind of a double agent for Fury, spying on Coulson. To do it again, I think that would just cheapen the whole thing. it worked great with Ward. I think May was kind of a big tease, but it worked with May. To do it any more than that, no, it's too much. Plus, then you're really putting a stake in the heart of the Fitzsimmons relationship, and that, if you do that, and that would kill the show for me. Those two characters are the heart of the show. You kind of have to preserve that, I think, because I've said this before. I think without Fitz and Simmons and that relationship, this show for me does not work. And that's not just my personal opinion. I think it's a big part of what makes the show work. And if you have one of them be an evil Hydra agent this whole time, it's going to feel disingenuous. I wouldn't buy it. I don't understand where this theory of Simmons being evil came from. I don't know where it came from. I don't get it. I don't subscribe to it, or I don't believe in it. It makes no sense to me. Jacob Walton, in your opinion, do you think the obelisk could be a connection with the Infinity Gems for the Avengers? If not, what's your theory on it as of now? I think it's possible. As they've stated in the Marvel movies, the Infinity Stones can. They don't necessarily look like they're supposed to look. They can come in other forms. So I think it could be related. So it's a possibility. Personally, I don't think so. I think this is going to be a separate thing. Well, my theory is the Sky's an Inhuman. Her and Raina, I think they're Inhumans. So I think this is going to be related to that. It's going to be some kind of Inhuman tech or Kree tech. I think the Kree are involved with that somehow. I don't know, but I wouldn't rule it out about it being an Infinity Stone. That would be a pretty huge tie-in for the movies. Would they go that route? I don't know. No, I wouldn't rule it out, but I don't personally. I don't think so. I think it'll be some kind of Kree or Inhuman tech, and that's what I've got. Okay. Jacob Walton, do you think we'll see Mike Peterson back this season? Possibly. I hope so. As I understand it, J. August Richards was cast J. August Richards was cast on another show. Got it that time. So that'll depend on his availability. Yeah, I know they love him. The producers love him. So I would hope he'd make an appearance. Probably not a huge one. But if the schedule works out, I'm sure they'd love to have him back, and they'll probably bend over backwards to get him back as much as they can. But it's a scheduling thing, and there's only so much you can do with that. All right. Okay. I think that's it for the Shield comments for right now. So I guess that's a good time to move on to Gotham. Let me call up my notes here. Okay. Gotham Season 1, Episode 2. I believe this one was called Selena Kyle. Pretty straightforward there. 1 second. Haven't eaten all day. So, plot of this episode. We got 2 creepy people abducting homeless children because of reasons. One of those kids being Selena Kyle. Also, Bruce Wayne is burning himself, and Oswald Cobblepot is trying to raise some money by ransoming some rich asshole outside of the city because he likes being called a penguin about as much as Marty McFly liked being called a chicken. And that's our episode this week. The positives of Gotham Episode 2, pretty much the same as last week. Everything looks good. The cinematography is very nice. It's filmed beautifully. The acting is good for the most part. Although, I have to say, Jada Pinkett Smith is hamming it up a bit more than she needs to. She's chewing an awful lot of scenery here, and it's becoming very noticeable. Like, there's this one scene where she's like, I didn't make that little punk suffer nearly badly enough. I'm like Jesus Christ, woman. What are you, a Power Rangers villain now? I mean, dial it back to 11. Jesus, holy shit. I mean, just, you have some decaf coffee and chill the fuck out already. Oh my God. Exercise a little subtlety with this performance. So I'm, goddamn. So yeah, that's a little problematic, that performance. On the other side of the spectrum, though, I really like the girl that's playing Selena Kyle. Her body language is great, is spot on. Like that one part where she's telling the kid when they're on the bus heading to what they think is like juvenile detention center. She's like, "Well, if you get in a fight, go for their eyes." This like the cat's paws. That was nice. I like that. She's got the body language. She's got the right attitude for the character. I look at her and I believe that this is a tweenage Catwoman. I believe it. So that's good casting there. And she seems like a decent actress too. Speaking of good casting, Cobblepot is easily the best thing on this show right now. Again, great body language. He's got the look. He understands the character. I'm very glad they went with a character actor instead of a name actor for this role, because this guy is perfect. This guy is the Penguin. He's great. And plus it helps that his storyline is probably the best developed on the show so far, in that nothing really stupid or implausible has happened to him yet. Which leads me to my criticisms of this episode. Much like last week, again, they're mostly with the story, which I still think is weak. This case had very little tension in it. I thought the climax was handled poorly. Selena is trying to avoid the, what's her face on the bus, and then she escapes from the bus, and then, she's hiding, and then they find her, and they're pointing a gun at her in the warehouse, and then the cops show up, and then everything's fine, and crisis over, and it's that. Excuse me. I just that had no tension to it at all. I thought the climax fell completely flat, and also it bothered me that Gordon pretending to shoot Cobblepot at the end of last week's pilot episode was only addressed very briefly, which felt like a mistake to me. I thought that was going to be a bigger story point, and I thought it should have been a bigger story point. Also, little things, a lot of inconsistencies I couldn't get past. Fish Mooney tried to have Gordon and Bullock killed last week, and now suddenly they're on good terms again. I can sort of understand Bullock kind of rolling with the punches and just trying to put on a show for her and make nice, but Gordon wasn't bothered by that? Really? Just like that? That bothered me. Also, the kidnappers, when they make off with the bus full of kids at the when they're being taken to the correctional facility or the juvenile detention center, whatever the hell they were going, they make off with that bus way too easily. I guess they stole some correctional officer uniforms, and then they could just get on the bus and just take it. It's that easy. They don't need like identification, or doesn't. Were there no background checks here to prevent this kind of stuff from happening? It's just, I don't know. That was a stretch. It goes back to this whole angle of the city, the institution of Gotham being corrupt, but it feels like they're going really overboard with it. They're hitting this so hard. Like Bullock threatens to beat up a kid in the middle of the precinct to get information. A minor threatens to just beat the shit out of him. And later he actually does beat up a helpless middle-aged man, and not behind closed doors or anything, like in the middle of the precinct with cops all around, and nobody says a word about this. Nobody even blinks at it. Not even Gordon, for Christ's sake. I mean, you're telling me not a single cop on the force has a problem with this? Because he's violating due process of law here. Is this just common practice in the Gotham Police Department? Also, and then this, holy shit balls. The mayor holds a press conference. He basically admits, not in these exact words, but he basically admits that he plans to send a bunch of homeless kids, homeless minors, kidnapping victims, mind you. He plans to send them to prison without a trial. How? How does that even work? Mayor or not, I'm pretty sure he can't do that. Even in Gotham, even in like a hyper corrupt city like this, you're telling me there's not some judge or some DA that's going to have a problem with this? How can he just do this? How does that work? Gotham is supposed to be a corrupt city, but this is just cartoonish. Yeah. I don't know, man. Am I being too critical of this? Oh, also, another thing. I don't like their portrayal of Alfred. He seems... Am I imagining this, or does he seem really harsh? I mean, like in the scene where Bruce was burning his hand, I mean, Alfred just grabs him and shakes him and is like, "You stupid little boy!" I'm like, what? Who the hell is this, and what has he done with Alfred Pennyworth? I'm sorry, I had a big problem with that. No version of Alfred that I recognize would ever do that to Bruce. I know Bruce is acting crazy here, but god damn, that's messed up. I'm sorry, that just felt completely wrong and out of character for me. I mean, obviously they're going for a different interpretation of Alfred, but still, that did not sit well with me at all. I did not like that. So anyway, final verdict on Gotham episode 2. It still looks good. Most of the actors are good, although Jada Pinkett Smith really needs to dial it down a little bit. However, the story is still pretty weak, and I won't make excuses for that. I will say some of the subplots are interesting to me. Selina using the identity of the Wayne's killer to cut a deal with Gordon so she doesn't have to go into the system or whatever. That's interesting to me because she says she knows who did it. Well, but she doesn't. She saw the killer, but he was wearing a mask. She doesn't know who he is. But yeah, I still like that because she's crafty. So she's got something. She's got something cooking. So she's gonna try to pull one over on Gordon. I like that. That's interesting to me. Plus, anything with Cobblepot has been really good so far. Because he's trying to amount some cash to probably get over on Fish Mooney, but he's kind of up shit creek at the moment. So that's fun. So there's some subplots going on here that I like. However, the case of the week format is not drawing me in. I don't think it's working. Now, granted, we've only seen 2 episodes, but thus far, these cases are not compelling yet. Not to me, anyway. In fact, I think they're kind of the weakest part of the show. I wonder if the show might work better as less of a procedural and going more serialized, because that definitely helps Shield a lot. And plus, I just find procedurals just incredibly formulaic and boring anyway. So I think if they just got rid of the case of the week format and maybe focused on a more serialized story and focused more on these interesting subplots they've got going, that might help. But as it is, I was not in love with the pilot, and I thought this was a weaker episode. In fact, I'll go one more. I think the second episode of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 1 was better than this episode. And while S.H.I.E.L.D. episode 1x02 is not as bad as people say, it's definitely one of the weaker episodes of that season. I thought it was better than this. And that's just how I feel. This one didn't do it for me. And I still think the show has potential. I'm not dropping it yet, but it definitely needs to improve some things. So, yeah, didn't like this one. The show still has a bit of leeway with, excuse me, it still has some leeway with me, but it needs to be better than this. And that's my thoughts on Gotham. So let's go to the Peanut Gallery. All right. The Save Me one. Do you think them casting... Is it Carmen or Cameron? Little dyslexic here, guys. I'm sorry. Cameron Bicondova. The girl playing Selena Kyle. Do you think them casting her, who looks just like a young Michelle Pfeiffer, was deliberate or just a coincidence? I think it was a happy accident. I would like to think they cast the best actress for the part. And if she just happened to look like Michelle Pfeiffer, they're like, well, how can we go wrong here? That's not a bad thing. I saw an interview with her where she said a lot of people have always told her that she could play Michelle Pfeiffer's daughter. That's cool. I think it was just an accident, but one that they were an accident that they were happy to have happen. Lucky STR8. Are they trying to make Bruce Wayne emo in this series? I don't know if emo is the right word. I've actually been very surprised at how not emo he's been so far. I would have expected him to have kind of a mourning period. Maybe go through some depression or anger. It seems like he's kind of bypassed the whole grieving process and gone straight to pre-Batman mode. So maybe he's got some repression issues. That part felt kind of rushed, in my opinion. I would have preferred a few episodes with him being like really depressed and just down in the dumps and just really fucked up before he gets to where he is now, where it's like he's already trying to be a detective and test himself. And I think he knows what he wants to do, and he just doesn't know how yet. That seemed to happen kind of fast. I thought that should have been more of a process. So I actually would have kind of liked him to go a little emo for a little while at least, because that's what happens when someone you love dies. You know. Jacob Walton. As for my Gotham comments, I liked episode 2 better than the pilot. Sure, there were some problems like you said on Twitter, but I guess you got to go with the logic that it's Gotham and everything is corrupt. Okay. That does buy you a little bit of leeway, but how far do we take this? You know, in my opinion, they're taking the corruption to such ridiculous levels that it doesn't seem realistic to me. And yeah, it's a comic book universe, but still, there's things happening here that I can't buy into. You know, apparently, Gordon seems like the only honest cop, and even on in the city, and even he seems okay with roughing up a suspect, violating due process. Again, well, I guess him and Montoya and her partner, they haven't done anything unsavory yet, but when you get to stuff like the mayor setting these kids up shit creek, sending them to prison without a trial, basically saying that during a press conference, how do you make that work? If that's his plan behind closed doors and he tries to keep it a secret from the press and everything, that's one thing. But if he says it, basically says it to the press, I'm sorry, I can't buy that. Saying that it's just Gotham, it's not an excuse. I mean, that it is an excuse, and it's a bullshit excuse, and you can't just use that every time you want to justify some ridiculous action that doesn't really make sense. All right, Jacob Walton. I get what you're saying about Alfred, but I'll give them the credit to have the balls to change Alfred's behavior, and he has to become a father and a servant to a boy he now has to take care of, and he's not used to being a father figure. But maybe, though, we see him become the Alfred we know and love by bonding with Bruce, but that's my theory. Okay. That's actually a pretty good theory. Now, come to think of it, I don't think I've ever actually seen, a version of Alfred from this period in Batman's character development. So that's actually a good point. We've never seen him. We've never seen the pre-Batman. Never really seen the pre-Batman Alfred. I mean, the Waynes have just been killed, and I guess it is realistic to think he'd be fucked up too. I guess it just bothered me so much because I wasn't really expecting it. He seemed, seeing Alfred being harsh with Bruce. I've never seen any version of Alfred even come close to doing something like that. It felt wrong to me. Maybe that's the point. Maybe they develop him into the softer, kinder version of Alfred that we all know and love later on. Maybe right now it's I don't know. it feels wrong to me, and I can't really wrap my head around it like the same way I did when in the early episodes of Arrow, where Oliver is like a cold-blooded killer and not really behaving like the Green Arrow we would expect him to be at all. Because I guess the story of Arrow is how he turns from the cold-blooded killer into that person, but yeah. Maybe it's the same deal here. Yeah, I'll give it some time. Maybe they'll develop him. So maybe they'll start developing Alfred a little bit, but still, it's just, I don't know. It bothered me, and I couldn't really find a way to rationalize it in my mind. Let's just see. Lucky STR8. Do you think Gotham is just a slapped-on title to try to attract viewers? Aside from the Selena Kyle stuff, it's kind of for me. Possibly. I do kind of get the sense that they may be trying to cash in on the comic craze because these types of shows and movies are so in right now. Plus, out of all the comic environments you could do a show about, you want to do a show about Gotham with no Batman? It does seem kind of strange. So it could be a marketing tactic. I agree with that. This might have been something that was maybe possibly like studio mandated. They like, oh, we want to do a cop show, set in Gotham City, and hire some producers to make that work, to write a pilot or something like that. I don't know, but you do raise a good point. I wouldn't put it past them. And yeah, the Selena Kyle stuff I like. The Cobblepot stuff I like. Everything else is not. It's not clicking for me yet. Yeah. Yeah, Lucky STR8. Were this week's villains a retooled version of the Sewer King? I don't know who that is. I'm sorry. Lucky STR8. Will McGregor syndrome have a mention in this series? I certainly hope not. I would hope they would avoid any and all mentions and references to Batman and Robin. And history has shown that we can now sort of laugh at that movie because of how bad it is and just sort of have fun with it. I don't think it's worth much more than the so bad it's good status. I don't think we need to go referencing it anymore. I think there was a McGregor syndrome reference in Arrow at one point. I don't think that was necessary. All right. Okay. That's it for Gotham. And it's only an hour in. Good. If we can keep this to like half an hour per show, that might work. Anywho, I had a request on Twitter to talk about the Simpsons Family Guy crossover episode. I don't really have any notes for that one, but I watched it, and I laughed a lot. This is one of the funniest. Probably one of the funnier episodes of either show I've seen in a while. I thought it was really clever how they paid homage to a lot of the classic bits on both shows. like Homer falling into the Springfield Gorge, and Peter fighting Homer just like he used to fight the giant chicken. um, Bart and Stewie making crank calls to Moe was great. Hey Moe, your sister's being raped. That was awesome. Probably a little harsher than we're used to seeing from The Simpsons, but still, I think that's the point. That's like the culture clash there. I think is supposed to be really entertaining. Although I don't know if anything's going to top the ending. If you had told me that, and I said this on Twitter, man, if you had told me that the first ever meeting of the Simpsons and the Griffins would result in Homer biting Peter in the junk, I don't know if I would have believed it. But by God, it happened. And it was glorious. Christ. Oh, where do they come up with this stuff? I don't know. But yeah. I really enjoyed it. I think the one part that wasn't really clicking for me was the subplot with Brian and Santa's little helper. That didn't really seem to go anywhere. He lets the dog off the leash. The dog runs away, and then the dog just comes back at the end. And it's like, okay, well, I guess we didn't need to explore that any further. The bit with Brian and Chris in the kitchen trying to make it sound like Santa's little helper was still there was funny. But yeah, that subplot just seemed kind of tacked on, just to give Brian some screen time. I really liked how they played off. People have been saying for years that the Family Guy is like a ripoff of The Simpsons. And I like how they did that. They did it as like a metaphor or an allegory, whatever the hell it was, with a Duff and the Pawtucket Patriot Brew. It says this is just a ripoff of Duff. No, it might have been inspired by Duff, but it's its own thing. And he tears off the label and it's just Duff. It's actually a Duff beer with a different label. There was some really clever. It was a really clever metaphor they were working with there, and I thought it worked really well, especially when they actually had the balls and during the court scene to do like the side-by-side comparisons of all the characters from the different shows. It's like, okay, yeah, so the main GC captain is a rip-off, was inspired by the guy with the two peg legs and the two peg arms was inspired by the sea captain. I don't know his name. But then you got Carl and Cleveland sitting together, and they're like the only two black guys there. Like you know why they set us together, right? Because we're the two coolest dudes in the room. Like, damn right. Boom. So yeah, it was. I really enjoyed it. I liked it a lot. I think the Fred Flintstone cameo was head scratching. I don't know if Seth MacFarlane is still doing the new Flintstones show. I thought that was axed. I don't know if that's still happening, but yeah, that was just completely random as all hell. I didn't get that. I thought that was dumb. But otherwise, really liked it. Yeah, really enjoyed it a lot. And if we have any comments or questions on that, leave them down below. Let's see. Jacob Walton. And finally, my thought on the Family Guy Simpsons crossover. I got a few laughs from Peter and Homer and Brian. It was what it was, and for the most part, it was fine. But I wasn't blown away or anything like that. But the fight was fun too. Yeah. I think it might have been a little more impactful had it happened years ago. Same thing with the Simpsons movie. I think the Simpsons movie might have been more impactful had it happened much earlier. Because, the Simpsons have been around for, what is this, the 26th season now? It's a long damn time. And, a lot of people are over the Simpsons now. And they actually, I thought it was a really ballsy move that they actually kind of played with that a little bit. It's like, yeah, Simpsons have been around for a long time, but I'm going to say it. I am over the Simpsons. And it's like, okay, they actually went there, and it's all right. That was fun. I like that they played with that. Played with that though. Excuse me. I like that they played with that. Family Guy's always been really good at that self-aware comedy, and I really like stuff like that. Yeah, Duke Nukem 3DO. Do you think the Simpsons Family Guy crossover is 8 years too late? Kinda. It probably would have meant more had it happened back then, But I'm glad we got to see it eventually. I would prefer they do it, years too late than not do it at all. The Save Me one. Nelson broke the 11th commandment, thou shalt not piss off Stewie Griffin. That was great. I loved Stewie with his hero worship of Bart. That was hilarious. And kidnapping Nelson. You're going to eat my shorts. Just... I'm sorry, I love Stewie. That was a great scene. Jacob Walton, but glad you enjoyed it. Good review, man. Hail Hydra. Hail Hydra, dude. Thanks for tuning in. Okay. All right. Just refresh this. Lucky STR8. Did Lois and Marge have any exchanges like Homer and Peter? Not like Homer and Peter. Yeah, the Marge Lois stuff happened mostly off camera, I think. They said, yeah, we went out and we did some stuff. Yeah, they didn't really cover that, which is fine. Because the episode was pretty packed already. I guess something had to go. Plus, Marge is like one of the less funny characters that they had to work with. So, if they wanted to cut that stuff to give more time to Stewie or Brian or Peter and Homer and stuff, I'm fine with that. Okay. All right, let me just check back here, see if I missed anything. Oh. It's nothing like really good pineapple. Stuff is like crack to me. I have no resistance to this. Give me like a big bowl of chopped pineapple. I'll eat it till I explode. I don't know. Can't get enough of this stuff. Okay. It looks like that's all the comments. Now, wait, hold on. Rich Boy J. Hay. Slightly off topic, but are you still wearing the sunglasses in your TNA reviews to protest how bad the product is, or has it just become a staple of your show at this point? Yeah, pretty much. The sunglasses started off as a way to. Well, it started as a joke to protect my eyeballs from seeing Kip James in high definition, and then it sort of evolved from that, and it just became a way to shield my eyes from just seeing bad things in high definition or a bad show in high definition. And then I got to a point where I was just wearing them all the time, and they just became my gimmick. And now I just wear them to be different. So yeah, it has nothing to do with the quality of the show anymore. Now I just wear them to stand out. And if that is everything, yeah, I think that's everything. Okay. I guess. All right, all right. I think we've covered everything. Shield, Gotham, Simpsons, Family Guy. I think we can call it a night here. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I really enjoyed doing this. It's a lot of fun. I look forward to doing this in the weeks to come. I still need a good name for this series. Somebody help me out with this because I'm drawing a blank on this one. But yeah, I will be back same time next week, Thursday, 10 p.m. We'll talk Shield. We'll talk Gotham. I believe Arrow and Flash will have premiered by then. I think they premiered next week. So we'll talk Shield, Gotham, Arrow, Flash, and I may have to go a little bit longer to cover everything. I will try to watch all the shows. I make no promises, but I'll try. So yeah, that's it. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you next Thursday, 10 p.m. for week 3. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it, and good night.